My beloved child, I am not sending you this message just to fill a gap in your free time. I am touching your screen at this very moment because there is something I want to correct in the way you see yourself. Do not make light of the words you are about to hear. Every time your heart aches, it is not just a touching piece of content. It is my voice knocking at the door. No stirring that comes from me in your life is ever useless. The only question is whether you choose to ignore it or allow it to change you. I know you have listened to many sermons and many stories, but today I want to step straight into the deepest place in your heart, the place where you quietly stick labels on yourself that I have never written. If you ignore my voice this time, you can still go on living, but you will go on living under a distorted, much smaller version of yourself than what I intended. I am not threatening you, but I am warning you. There are moments when you can change the way you see yourself, and if you let too many of those moments pass, your heart will grow hard, and my voice will gradually be drowned in the noise of the world. I see you living under old labels, while in heaven, I have already written your name into a completely new covenant. I hear every time you call yourself useless, broken beyond repair, hard to change, while I have already declared, whoever is in Christ is a new creation. The old has passed away, 2 Corinthians 5:17, yet you still cling to the old remnants as if they were your true identity. I do not agree with the way you belittle yourself, because on the cross I paid the price not so that you would live like someone standing outside the door, but so that you would walk in as a child who is received and called by a new name. Every time you tie yourself again to shattered memories and use them to define your worth, you are unintentionally telling me that my word, behold, I am doing a new thing, Isaiah 43:19, is not trustworthy enough. And it is that attitude which exhausts you, not your past. For a long time, you have grown used to letting your past write the description of your life. You look at your falls, your failed relationships, the words of criticism that once wounded you, and you conclude, maybe this is as far as I'll ever go. You hear my voice through the word. I have called you by name. You are mine, Isaiah 43:1. But when you look in the mirror, you only see someone ordinary, nothing special. So you choose to trust the mirror more than my eyes. You say you believe in me, yet deep inside you believe more in the labels others have stuck on you, those throwaway lines. You're inferior, you're not as good as anyone, you always mess everything up. Those statements are not truth, but you have treated them like unbreakable laws, while the truth I declare you skim over in a moment. I am not surprised by the cracks in your life. I saw them, all long before you did. What grieves me is that you use those cracks to say, that's just who I am, instead of, that's what I've been through, but it is not where I will remain. I have shown you so many stories in Scripture. I changed Abram's name to Abraham. I changed Jacob, the one who grasped the heel, into Israel, the one who wrestles with God. I called a timid man like Gideon a mighty warrior, right when he was still hiding among the wheat, Judges 6:12. I did this so you would understand that I do not call you according to what you feel right now. I call you according to what I have placed inside you. Yet you would rather agree with old condemnations than agree with the name I give you. Tonight, I do not only want to comfort you by saying, I love you. I want to pull you out of the safe zone of the self-image you have built in order to survive. That image may look humble, but in truth it is a cage. Why do you stay trapped under those old labels? Because you have let many things other than me define who you are. The feeling of lack, constant comparison with others, unhealthy relationships, even the dreams you yourself have constructed without asking me. From there, layer after layer is formed. You see yourself as someone who is always lacking, someone who deserves only just enough. You endure connections that pull you away from me simply because you fear being alone. You want me to change your circumstances, but you do not want me to touch the self inside. That is why before I touch the things on the outside, your finances, work, relationships, the doors of your life, I will begin at the deepest point, the way you see yourself. Because if you hold on to your old identity, every new thing I pour out will be distorted in your hands. I have declared, I came that the sheep may have life and have it abundantly. John 10:10. But if deep inside you still believe you only deserve to live on the bare minimum, you will turn blessings into burdens and opportunities into fears. Today I want, gently but firmly, to remove each label, each self-description, each old voice in your mind, so that you will dare to believe that I see you differently. First of all, you need the courage to face one truth. Neither the devil nor other people are the ones holding the key that locks you in your past. It is the way you define yourself that is the tightest lock. You have become used to looking at yourself through wounds, failures, and all the times you were not chosen, rather than through my eyes. When you remember your journey, what comes to mind first is not the grace with which I saved you, but the times you did wrong, missed your chance, or disappointed others. So instead of saying, "You have saved me, I am one who has received mercy," you keep repeating, "I'm the one who always ruins things. I'm a burden. I'm not worthy to be used." You do not realize that every time you speak like this, you are sticking yet another layer of labels onto yourself. The world has already hung on you all kinds of definitions: personality, circumstances, background. You were only born to get this far and to make life easier. You quietly accept them, wearing a mask of safety, silence, withdrawal, not daring to step out even though deep inside you know I have called you to something more. When you sigh, "God uses others, not me," you think you are being humble, but in reality you are despising what I have placed within you and refusing the new name I long to speak over your life. I want you to understand, if you keep clutching a broken self and calling it identity, you will not recognize it when I call you by your true name. Many times, precisely in those moments when you are alone, you pull out those old tapes and play them in your mind, all the times you were criticized, the mistakes you regret, the days you were abandoned, and then you use them as evidence to condemn yourself. You forget that the enemy of your soul loves to whisper, "That's who you are. You'll always be like that," so that his voice drowns out mine when I call you beloved, as I spoke over my son, Matthew 3:17. I knitted you together wonderfully. I saw your frame while you were still in your mother's womb. I call you fearfully and wonderfully made. Psalm 139:14. Yet just a few people saying you're nothing is enough for you to trust them more than me. To dull the pain, you decide to live as a smaller version of yourself, not daring to dream, not daring to try again, not daring to step into what I have placed in your heart. You say, "I'll just stay like this. It's safer." But that safety is in fact a cage of memories where you both imprison yourself and hold the key. When you live in that cage long enough, eventually you forget that there was a day when I called you out, and you forget that I have never signed my name on the labels you are wearing. There are reasons deeper than you think for why you keep clinging to those old labels. Since childhood, perhaps you have heard again and again, "You're so clumsy. You never get anything right. You only make things worse." And over time those words slipped into your heart and became an inner voice. Society has taught you to measure your value by grades, appearance, bank accounts, achievements. So when those things are not dazzling enough, you immediately conclude, "I am a failure," and press that label tightly on your forehead. Even in your spiritual life, at times you have met with glances of comparison and quick judgments that make you feel smaller than those who seem gifted or important, and you silently place yourself at the back of the line. Yet I have reminded you that people look at the outward appearance, but I look at the heart. 1 Samuel 16-7. But you still prefer to trust the world's rankings rather than my gaze. You say, I'm just being realistic, but in truth you are living under a distorted reality, a reality not grounded in my word but built on wounds and human prejudice. Sometimes you cling to your old labels not because you enjoy pain, but because you are afraid you won't know who you are if you take them off. It feels strange to you when someone says, you have value, you carry grace, you have been chosen by God, because those words do not match the story you have told about yourself for so many years. Shame makes you lower your head and think you are unworthy to lift your face toward me, so you choose avoidance instead, avoiding places where you could step up to serve, avoiding opportunities to learn, even avoiding my whispers through Scripture. Yet you forget that I do not wait until people are perfect before I love them. I love them first, and only then do I begin to heal and train them. I proved this with Peter, the one who denied me 3 times, and yet I still entrusted my sheep to him. John 21:15-17. I do not stand far off and say, when you have fixed everything, I will receive you. On the contrary, I step right into the very place where you feel most ashamed and say, this is exactly where I begin. When you keep repeating the story, I am defective, I am a lost cause, and refuse to give me the right to rewrite it. You are letting the voice of shame speak louder than my word over you. Behind those old labels there is something else as well. You imagine that if you put yourself down first, it will hurt less when others do it to you. You use phrases like, I'm really no good, I don't know anything, I'm terrible anyway, as a protective cloak, hoping that if someone looks down on you, at least you will already be used to it. But you do not realize that every time your mouth speaks such words, another deep groove is carved into your heart. For the mouth only speaks what the heart is already full of. Mot 12:34. I have given you my word to renew your thinking, yet instead of repeating, I am a child of God, Yen 1:12, there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ, Rom 8:1. You keep rehearsing the old sentences of accusation. You think I am pleased when I see you, know your place, but the humility you are practicing is only a distorted copy. True humility is not calling yourself garbage. It is daring to believe what I say more than what you feel. I want you to lay down that defensive cloak and let me cover you, because as long as you try to protect yourself with those old labels, there will be no room left for you to take refuge under the shadow of my wings. Now I invite you to do something that seems simple, yet is in fact a turning point. Bring all of those labels into my presence and let me have the final word. You can begin by naming them before me. Lord, I have believed I am unnecessary, that I am a problem, that I will never be good enough. And as you speak these things, you are placing them down at my feet. The moment you do this, you are agreeing with me that these names no longer have the right to define you. You are allowing me to do what I have promised. You shall be called by a new name that the mouth of the Lord will bestow, is 62:2. I want to whisper into your heart another name, perhaps not just a single word, but a whole new sense of self, knowing that you are chosen, loved, and sent, even while you are still weak. I will patiently repeat this until your heart begins to believe, so that when you look into the mirror, you do not see only your past, but the imprint of grace. You will not become a different person overnight, but every time you choose to trust my word above the old voices, another chain around your mind will fall away. Little by little, you will begin to notice something. As I restore your inner identity, the way you walk through this life will also start to change. The one who used to keep their head down, convinced they were useless, will dare to lift it and ask me, Lord, where do you want to use me? Because they know now that they are a servant, not a burden. The one who used to fear being abandoned will gradually release the relationships that pull them away from me, because they have realized they no longer need to cling to anyone to prove their worth. I have already proven it through the cross. The one who once thought they were only worthy of just enough will begin to open their heart to believe that I can teach them to live as a steward, not a beggar living on leftovers. From only daring to dream of survival, you will learn to dream of living out the fullness of the purpose I have for you. And right here, I will touch another area you often avoid, the way you look at lack, at blessing, and at the one who provides, because the way you define yourself today is quietly deciding how far you dare to trust me for tomorrow. You see, the way you see yourself always shapes the way you trust me for provision. Outwardly, you call me a loving father, the shepherd who does not let you be in want, yet inwardly you still live like a spiritual orphan, always afraid of not having enough, afraid of coming up short, afraid that tomorrow there will not be sufficient. Every time a bill arrives, when debts appear again, when others succeed more than you immediately shrink back. I only need to get through the day, Lord. Please just let me have enough to live. Don't let me lack too much. You think you are being humble, but in reality, that just barely surviving mindset is quietly killing your faith in me, the one who taught you to look at the birds of the air and the flowers of the field, and remember that your Father in heaven knows all your needs. Mate 6, 26:30, a reminder I give, so your heart will stop trembling. I am not angry when you are weak, but I am grieved when I see you living like someone whose source is always cut off, when I have already placed you in the house of the one who is enough and more than enough. There is something I want to tell you gently, yet plainly. You have grown accustomed to measuring me by very human numbers, the amount in your bank account, the lines on your resume, the number of opportunities before you, and you call that reality. When you see that your situation is narrow, your salary low, the doors seemingly shut, you quickly conclude, God can probably only help me this far. Instead of saying, Lord, I cannot see the way, but I believe you have a way, you say, I cannot see the way, so it must not exist. I once broke a few small loaves and fed an entire crowd until they were satisfied. Muck 6, 41-42. I once caused water to flow from a dry rock, X 17-6. Yet when I ask you to trust me for what goes beyond your calculations, you step back. You use the word reality to legitimize your fear, while my reality is measured by my capacity, not by the limits of the environment in which you live. Out of your fear of lack, you have trained yourself in the habit of only daring to ask for just enough. You pray, as long as I don't starve, as long as my home doesn't collapse, as long as my sickness doesn't get worse, and you think that is a sensible, modest heart. But you do not realize that if you stop at merely wanting to survive, you will never enter into the intention of abundant life that I have spoken over my sheep, John 10:10, where I say, you may have life and have it in fullness. When you hear the word abundance, you immediately associate it with greed, indulgence, and showy wealth, instead of thinking about becoming a steward who holds resources in their hands to give, to share, to lift others up. You fear blessing, you fear possessions, because you assume that if you have them, you will automatically be ruined. And so you unintentionally attach me to the image of a father who only gives you a bowl of dry rice to survive each day, without daring to imagine a table with enough for you and for those I long for you to bless. I do not teach you to chase after riches, but neither do I teach you to worship lack as if it were a spiritual virtue. Another subtle cause that is quietly choking your faith is that you do not truly believe I can open many different streams of provision over your life. You look around and see only one job, one income, one path, so you tell yourself, if this is gone, my life is over. So you cling to a door that has already dried up as if clinging to your very breath, even while I am quietly turning the key to another door. I have told you that I am the one who makes a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. Is 43-19, a word I remind you of when you think there is no way out, yet you keep hugging the old way because you are afraid to take risks. You do not believe that I can use a stranger, a small idea, an unexpected opportunity to shift your situation, so you withdraw into the tiny frame of, how could that ever happen? Your faith has been shrunk to the width of your experience, instead of being stretched to the depth of my word. Not only that, but many times you ask me for blessing without being willing to let me touch your lifestyle. You say, Lord, please give me financial stability, please enlarge my income. But when I gently touch your careless spending and the habit of shopping to fill inner emptiness, you brush me off with, I'm stressed, I need to treat myself a little. You ask me to cancel your debts, yet when I nudge you to learn discipline, to make a plan, to remove what is unnecessary, you feel tired and label it self-effort instead of trusting God. I have promised that I will supply all your needs according to my riches in glory in Christ Jesus. Phil 4:19. But that provision often comes, together with me, teaching you how to steward, to distinguish between need and want, to know how to say, that's enough, to your restless appetites. When you refuse to let me reshape your way of living, even blessing can easily turn into a burden, just as money that is not used rightly becomes a new chain that binds you. I do not blame you for all the times you have trembled in the face of lack. I understand the nights when you count and recount, the worries you do not dare to tell anyone. But today, I invite you to place your trust back in the right place, not in numbers, not in your plans, but in me, the one who has cared for every single flower you step past every day. I want you to begin with an honest confession. Lord, I have believed in scarcity more than in your promises. I am afraid of abundance because I am afraid of myself, yet I am also weary of living a life that only dares to survive on the bare minimum. When you dare to say that, you hand me the right to step into your finances, your needs, and your fears. I will not shame you. I will patiently teach you a different way to live, not a life of wastefulness, but a life of a child who knows their father's house does not run dry. Day by day, I will show you small choices, trimming a meaningless expense to open a space for sowing, letting go of a self-soothing habit to learn how to lean on me in prayer. That is how I heal a scarcity mindset, from the inside out, not through a lottery win or a fleeting miracle. Then, when you understand that you are called to be a channel and not a reservoir, you will begin to see blessing differently. The water in a channel is always fresh because it flows through, while the water in a sealed pond easily becomes cloudy and polluted. If you only want to keep everything for yourself, you will always be afraid of losing. But when you know that I give so that you may share, you will feel freer even when you do not have much. You start to notice the people I place around you. Someone needs a meal, someone needs a word of encouragement, someone needs a door of opportunity that you can introduce them to. I am not asking you to carry the whole world, I am asking you to be faithful with the portion I assign to you. From there, you will taste a kind of abundance that is not measured by numbers, but by the joy of participating in my flow, and you will realize a scarcity mindset does not only affect your wallet, it slips into the way you hold your relationships. At times you cling to connections that no longer come from me, simply because you are afraid of losing your support, afraid that no one will be there to uphold you. It is right at that point that I will gently open your eyes to see which relationships are drawing you closer to me, and which ones are quietly draining your faith, little by little. There are relationships in which, when I look, I see your heart weighed down as though carrying a heavy stone, yet you still call them my support, my family, my love. You ask me for peace, but you cling tightly to those who are stealing that peace from you. Then you wonder why your soul is tangled like a ball of thread. You do not realize that there are people who are close in distance, but do not draw you closer to me at all. They only stay close to your fears, your wounds, and your fleshly nature. I have told you very clearly that bad company corrupts good character. 1 Cor 15:33. Not so that you will suspect everyone, but so that you will be sober enough to see in which direction the lives of those beside you are pulling your own. Some people step into your life like a cool breeze, helping you rediscover laughter and faith. Others come in like a thin layer of smoke that at first seems harmless, but gradually stings your eyes until you can no longer see me clearly. In such moments, the real issue is not only whether they are good or bad, but whether you have enough courage to ask me, Lord, is this person meant to belong to the season you want me to walk in? One of the reasons you cling so tightly to relationships that are wrong for the season is that you do not believe you can walk any stretch of the road with me alone. You fear loneliness so much that you are willing to stay in connections that hurt you, rather than face a period where it is just you and me. You forget that I have appointed a time for everything, Eccle 3:1, including relationships. Some I send into your life to support you for a segment, some to teach you a lesson, some simply so that you learn your limits. But you keep trying to turn a season into forever, clinging to people whom I have gently moved out of the center of your life. Then you call that loyalty. You are afraid that if you let go, you will lose everything, so you hold on to connections that are only a shell, while the core has already decayed. I do not blame you for being afraid, but I want you to understand this. There are things you are holding not because they are still alive, but because you do not dare to bury them. Sometimes the enemy does not attack you with loud, dramatic events, but with a relationship that seems harmless while slowly eroding your faith. Some people come into your life like an assignment from the enemy, disguised under labels such as best friend, soulmate, the only one who understands me. Yet from the time you grew close to them, you have prayed less, read my word less, and shown up at gatherings less frequently. You laugh more, but after laughing, you feel empty. You are so busy texting, talking, and worrying about them that there is no room left for me to speak to you. You call it love, but I see dependence. You beg for scraps of attention. You are willing to trade your peace so as not to be abandoned. Even though I have promised to give you a peace, not as the world gives, John 14:27, you fear their sadness, their anger, their leaving, more than you fear losing my presence. In that moment, the fear of people has become the snare I once warned you about. The fear of man is a trap, Prov 29-25. I do not want you to live in any relationship where merely thinking about saying no makes your heart panic, while thinking about grieving me makes you shrug. It will probably be fine. I know there are relationships you hold on to because you hope you will save the other person, pull them closer to me, when in reality you are allowing them to pull you away from me step by step. You say, I love them, I cannot bear to leave, but true love will never demand that you step out of the light to remain in a gray zone where you must hide, lie, and compromise your conscience. I have reminded you, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers, 2 Cor 6:14, not only in marriage, but in every deep bond, because two cannot walk together unless they agree on the two. Direction, Amos 3:3. When you bind yourself to people who are not heading where I am going, each step becomes a tug of war. You want to follow me, yet you are afraid of losing them, and in the end, you stay stuck in place. You think you are sacrificing for love, but in truth you are sacrificing your calling, your time, your peace, and even my gentle voice inside you. I love that person more than anyone else could love them. I know how to touch their heart better than you do. And many times it is precisely your stepping out of the wrong position that opens the way for me to work in their life. What I am inviting you into today is not to look around and cut off every relationship in a rush of emotion, but to bring each bond you are clinging to into my presence and let me shine my light on it with you. You can begin with very concrete questions. Lord, when this person is close to me, do I find myself loving you more or drifting farther from you? Am I still truly myself in you when I am with them, or do I have to wear a mask in order to be accepted? I am the skillful vine dresser. I have said that every branch that does bear fruit, I prune so that it will bear even more. John 15:2. And sometimes that pruning is precisely the readjusting of relationships. Some I draw closer. Some I gently move out of the lead role so they become only supporting characters in your life story. I will never ask you to do anything that goes against true love. I will not tell you to hate, to take revenge, or to despise anyone, but I will teach you how to set boundaries, how to say enough, how to give me the first place that no one is allowed to compete for. When you agree to let me prune, there will be painful moments, but it is a pain that leads to freedom, not the pain that comes from your own refusal to release what has long been dead. And then, once you dare to step out of relationships that are wrong for the season, you will see something else that needs my touch. It is not only the people around you that exhaust you, but also the way you move inside each relationship. I do not only want to change the cast of your life. I want to change the way you love, the way you trust, the way you react when you are hurt, the way you choose who is allowed to come close to your heart. Because even if I replaced one person after another, if inside you the same clinging, the same fear of abandonment, the same habit of doing everything your own way remain, the result will be the same. You only change faces, but the story does not change. You often pray, Lord, please change the person beside me, change my environment, change my circumstances, while I am patiently inviting you. Let me change you first. Through your relationships, I will show you the places in you that need shaping, healing, and deliverance, so that when I lead you into a new season, you will not only have new people and new circumstances, but also a new heart, one that knows how to obey, to be gentle, and to walk in step with my will, instead of clinging to your old way of thinking as you did before. I want you to sit with me and take a careful look. How many times have you prayed, Lord, please do something new in my life? Yet the moment I begin to gently touch anything old, you immediately cling to it, as if you were afraid I would take away the last bit of ground you stand on. You ask me to redirect you, but you do not want me to lay a hand on long-standing thoughts, hidden habits, or the plans you have cherished like a treasure. You like the idea of being renewed, but you do not actually want to change. You only want to be, meaning everything should happen on the outside, while inside you keep the same feelings, the same ways of thinking, the same reactions. And yet I have spoken very clearly that true transformation begins from within. Do not be conformed to this age, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, Rom 12:2, not merely by changing your job, your house, or the people around you. If you keep wanting me to rearrange the stage without allowing me to touch the script in your heart, you will always see everything as different, while you yourself remain just the same. I do not rebuke you for longing to be changed, but I want you to understand that every new thing I do always comes with an invitation to let me change you. When I close a certain door, your first reflex is usually confusion and blaming the circumstances. Why is this happening? The enemy must be attacking. Why isn't the Lord defending me? You stare at the door that is just slammed shut and push on it with all your strength to make it open again, instead of pausing to ask me, Lord, are you shutting this way so that you can open another one? You forget that I am the one who opens and no one can shut, and who shuts and no one can open. Rev. 3-7. So every time I lock something, it is not to imprison you, but to protect you from dead ends you cannot yet see. There are times I shake your life, a relationship ends, a job is taken away, a plan collapses, and you immediately label it failure, bad luck, God has left me. But you do not realize that I am acting like a father, rearranging a room that has become far too cramped. Some things must be cleared out, moved away, taken down. While the dust is swirling and everything seems ruined to you, I am actually preparing space for what you once asked me for. I do not delight in your tears, but I also do not pull back my hand when I know that shaking you hard for a season will save you from years of hitting a wall. Another thing that wears you out is that you are used to trying to control even the very process I am working in you. You do not only want me to answer your prayers, you also want to pick the timing, choose the method, even decide the kind of blessing you prefer. I want to be delivered, but not by that path. I want to be changed, but please do not touch that area. When things do not follow the schedule you have drawn, you start to feel irritated, to complain, or you take matters back into your own hands and rearrange everything to your liking, then put a label on it saying, God opened the way for decisions made in great haste. I have promised that I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. Ezek 36-26, which means I begin at the center, your motives, your desires, your faith, not just repainting the surface. But if you only want me to do outward miracles without allowing me to repair what is inside, you are like someone wanting to pour new wine into old wineskins. When the pressure builds, everything will burst. Muk 2:22. Gently but firmly I remind you, before you see me change your circumstances, let me change the way you think about me, about yourself, and about this life. I know you are afraid to let go of control because you think that if you are not holding on, your life will fall into an empty space where no one is in charge. But in reality, when you cling to the steering wheel, you are steering yourself into curves I have already warned you about. There are times I allow you to have the right to choose so that you can taste, once and for all, the consequences of following your own will, not because I have abandoned you, but because whatever a person sows, that he will also reap. Gal 6-7. That law is meant to wake you up, not to destroy you. You pray for revival, for fire, for new life, but you do not want to obey in very specific things. Forgiving someone, letting go of a habit, correcting a pattern of living, adjusting a relationship. Without obedience, every spiritual emotion, every fiery meeting, every promise you write down is like a flame that flares up and then dies out. But when you dare to say to me, as my only son once said, not my will, but yours be done, Luke 22:42, that is when true fire begins to burn from within, and precisely when you allow me to shape your heart in this way, you will be more ready to receive what I have prepared, blessings that will no longer be an excuse for you to forget me, but become opportunities for you to live responsibly and keep a reverent heart, instead of sliding into complacency as so many others have. When your heart begins to soften and you allow me to mold it, I not only lead you out of what is wrong, I also begin to bring you through new doors, new opportunities, healthier relationships, broader provision, deeper influence. It is precisely on this stretch of road that feels like answered prayer that the greatest danger quietly appears. The most frightening thing is not that you do not receive blessing, but that once you begin to taste blessing, you slowly forget the one who blesses. I have already warned my people that when you are full, your houses are secure, and your flocks and herds increase. You will easily forget the one who brought you out of the house of slavery, as I spoke through Mose and Moses in the wilderness. I am not jealous of your joy, for I myself am the one who gives it. But my heart aches when I see your eyes stop looking up and only stare at what is in your own hands. In the quiet, drifting away usually begins very small. When you had nothing, you knelt very quickly. You sought me diligently, because you knew that if I did not hold you, you had nothing else to cling to. When I lift you up a little, give you more trust, more gifts, more money, more people listening to you, you begin to think you have grown up and no longer need to hold my hand as tightly as before. The gifts I gave you to serve then become things you use to affirm yourself. You are more pleased when people say, "You are so anointed," than when I am made known. You start to see yourself as the center of the story, whereas I have already taught you. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you. Gen 15:16. When you forget that, the very blessings you carry begin quietly to push you away from the source of those blessings without your realizing it. The stories in Scripture have already shown you how dangerous this cycle is. I raised Saul up from being small in his own eyes to become king, but when he began to trust his position more than obedience, he traded obedience to save face and eventually lost both the throne and my presence. I gave David victories, reputation, and a kingdom, but in just one moment of forgetting that he was a steward and not the absolute owner, he fell into desire and paid for it with tears and war in his own house. I gave my people a land flowing with milk and honey, but when they let blessings overflow on the table while their hearts remained empty of me, that land became a place of idols, injustice, and heaviness. Those stories were not written for you to merely admire or fear. They were written so you would understand that when the gift in your hand begins to hide the giver, blessing can very easily turn into a trap. Today, I want you to look at yourself, not to condemn yourself, but to wake up. Ask yourself, are the things I have given you in this season drawing you closer to me, or making you so busy that you slowly retreat from the secret place? Do you still tremble with holy awe when you stand before me as you did at first, or have you grown casual in coming in and out of my presence, thinking, "He understands me anyway"? The fear of me is not a terror of punishment, but an awareness that I am holy and that there is no area in your life that is off limits to me. I have declared that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, Prov 9:10, which means that if you handle blessing without reverence, you will use it foolishly no matter how sharp your intellect may be. When you begin to compromise in small things, telling yourself, "It's okay, God is using me," that is the moment you are trading holy fear for mere familiarity. I know there are times you are tired because of the pressure of the very things you once asked for. Being entrusted with more work makes you feel weighed down. Having more people listen to you makes you feel pressured. Having more possessions makes you afraid of losing them. Instead of bringing that burden back to me and asking, "Lord, how should I steward this?" you hold it tight, worrying over it while using it to prove your worth to others. I do not bless you so that you will drown in new anxieties. I bless you so that you can learn responsibility and freedom, knowing that you are a faithful servant, not an untouchable owner. I have said that my only son came not to be served, but to serve, Matt 20:28, and everything given into your life, whether money, a gift of speaking, understanding, or position, must be carried with that posture. When you use those things to build your own little kingdom instead of extending my kingdom, you will always be straining to protect what never belonged to you in the first place. Look at the people I have used the most powerfully. Abraham had to pass the test of offering his son. Joseph had to endure injustice in the dark prison. Moses had to live 40 years in the wilderness. David had to hide and flee before he became king. Ruth had to glean in the fields. Job had to lose almost everything. Mary had to accept the suspicion of people. Peter had to face his own denial of the Lord. Paul had to die to his former fame. None of them were allowed to skip the process. I used the furnace to prove that what I had placed in them was more real than the circumstances around them. It was precisely in those hidden years, when no one applauded, no one called their names, that they learned gifts, ministries, and results must never be placed above me. And when I lifted them up, what kept them was not talent, but reverence for me, and the awareness that they were only stewards. I want you to walk that same road in the very unique way that I have for you. I am not calling you back to me in order to strip away your joy or take back the good things I have given. I am calling you back to the simple place at the beginning so that you will not lose your soul right in the midst of things that seem to be for God. I want you to know how to rejoice again when it is just you and me, even if no one sees, no one applauds. To rejoice in doing what I teach you, even if it can be posted nowhere and no one recognizes it. The true revival in your life will not be shown first by noise, emotional highs, or viral clips, but by the fall of the idols hidden deep in your heart, yourself, your need to be acknowledged, your habit of using the anointing to protect your own name. From there, your life will begin to change in quiet yet persistent ways. The choices you make will be different. The way you speak will be different. The way you spend will be different. The way you love people will be different. And when you learn to live as an anointed one who still trembles before me, knowing you are only a steward of everything, you will become a living testimony, not to the tragedy of those who treat me lightly, but to the beauty of a blessed life that keeps a tender heart toward my voice, ready for me to lead you into even deeper steps on the journey with me. You know, many of the things you once clung to and called love were in fact only faded, distorted versions of what I had planned for you from the very beginning. They were like a picture that has been photocopied far too many times. The outline still looks similar, but the color, the depth, and the life have long disappeared. There were bonds that appeared right when you were weak, right when you were thirsty to be seen and to be heard, so you hurried to embrace them, thinking they were gifts I had sent. But I, the one who sees to the very bottom of the heart, know very clearly that most of them were only ties that helped you temporarily forget your loneliness, not things that drew you closer to my purposes. They may have made you feel excited for a moment, made your heart race, given you the sense that I am not invisible, but when the intoxication of emotion passed, you fell again into another deep pit of emptiness, even deeper than before. More than once you have lain there, asking yourself, is this really all I deserve? Without realizing that from beginning to end I never wrote my name on any of those fragments of affection. I do not say this to shame you, but so that you will pause for a moment and see clearly that I did not create you to go around gathering the crumbs of other people's emotions and call that being loved. Because I love you too much to let you go on living that way, I am quietly arranging other kinds of connections to step into your life, not loud, showy links, but people who carry the fragrance of heaven, people who, when you are near them, make you feel drawn closer to me rather than closer to your own fears. They will not come to compete for the spotlight with you, but to join you in completing the portion of work I have entrusted. Like the different parts of a body coming together into one body, you have read in Paul's letters that you are members of one another. When you are with them, you will recognize a very different kind of harmony, not a clinging born of dependence, but a walking together in the same heartbeat, from the deepest place in your spirit, flowing out into your emotions and touching even the everyday things like work, habits, and future direction. They will not be perfect people, but they will be people I can shape, who know how to bow low, to turn back, to listen for my voice. And among the relationships I am preparing, for some of my children, I am also tenderly caring for the deepest dream you often hide beneath your laughter, the longing for a life partner in holy covenant, someone who will not only hold your hand in this life, but kneel with you before me and echo the promise. What God has joined together, let no one separate. I see every night when you turn your face to the wall, holding on to a longing that seems as if it will never be answered. I hear even the words you do not dare to speak aloud, only whisper in your heart, Lord, I also want to belong to someone, but I am afraid. Afraid of being wrong again. Afraid of being hurt again. Afraid of wandering away from you. That longing is not a thorn I have driven in to torment you, nor is it a punishment for past mistakes. It is part of the hollow I have carved in your heart, so that at the right time, the one I have prepared for you can fit there in a way that is natural, yet profound. While you think you just want to love and be loved like everyone else, I am using this very desire to train you, to help you discern what feelings arise from illusion and what love has its roots in me, to teach you to live alone without falling into despair, so that you no longer use anyone as a painkiller for the emptiness inside. I allow this longing to remain, but I also let it be accompanied by seasons of waiting and moments of disappointment, because I want you to be clear-headed enough that when the real thing comes, you recognize that it is me, not just another copy of your past. There will come a time when you yourself clearly see this. You no longer have the strength to chase after things labeled love that make you pay with your peace. You once chose to stay in connections that kept your heart in a constant state of alarm simply because you were afraid of the emptiness you might feel if you let go. You once begged for a tiny place in someone else's life, willing to endure indifference, coldness, even contempt, as long as you could stay. You once believed that a little is better than nothing at all, forgetting that as long as you cling to those things, your hands have no room left to receive the new things I want to place in them. I do not blame you for the choices you made in panic. I know that every time you held on to relationships that made you lose yourself bit by bit, it was because deep inside you kept hearing a cruel whisper. You don't deserve anything better than this. But I stand in a completely different place. I look at you and say, you are my child, called by name by me, engraved on the palms of my hands, and no shallow affection on this earth has the right to lower that value. That is why I have begun, gently yet firmly, to close the connections that only drain you, even when you are not ready, because if I allowed them to go on, you would lose even the good parts that still remain in your heart. What I am leading you toward is a very different kind of bond. Not loud, not showy, not one that makes you perform in order to be accepted. The person I prepare for you, whether a life partner or a spiritual companion, will not enter your life like a storm that throws everything into chaos, but like a gentle breeze, carrying the sense of being safe that you thought you would never taste. You will discover that beside them you do not need to exaggerate yourself, nor do you need to shrink back. You are free to be yourself in me, with both your strengths and your weaknesses, with both the grace that builds and the places still being healed. They will not exploit your old wounds to keep you near them. They will not need to threaten to leave in order to force your compliance. They will not use silence as a weapon. Instead, they will learn with you how to bring everything before me, for me to illumine, to heal, to explain. They will not throw you into confusion with promises that are hot one day and cold the next, saying forever today and disappearing without a word tomorrow. They may be clumsy and far from perfect, but their hearts will be turned toward me, and that will create a stability you have never known before. The clearest sign for you to recognize what comes from me is the quiet peace that surrounds it, not the overwhelming emotion of a moment. I once told my disciples that I leave my peace with them, a peace unlike the temporary kind the world gives, and that word is for you as well. That peace does not mean there will never be conflict or misunderstanding. It means that even when faced with differences, those two people still choose to come back to me, still honor one another, still refuse to trample on each other's hearts. You will not feel that you have to step aside and make yourself small, nor will you need to climb impossibly high to prove you are worthy. On the contrary, you will realize that when I stand in the middle, all that is uncertain becomes far less frightening. The love I have designed always comes with healthy boundaries. You are free to open your heart without being swallowed, to give without being drained, to trust without being exploited. Even so, in order to step into the connections that carry my breath, you will need to allow me to continue the work I have already begun in your heart, clearing away the remnants of old relationships and dismantling the distorted ways of thinking you hold about yourself, about others, and about me. Because if you do not, even when I set a true gift before you, you will easily turn it into a replica of your past. If there is still an untouched fear of abandonment within you, you will cling to the one I send, as if they were your only lifeline, rather than walk beside them as a companion. If deep down you still believe you are less than, you will question every kind gesture, constantly waiting for the day they leave, and unconsciously sabotage the connection, so that when it happens, at least you will not be caught off guard. I do not want to see this pattern repeat one more time. So, while I am preparing others, I am also tending to your inner world, healing the scars you thought had closed, but have only just stopped bleeding, and gently peeling back the layers of covering you have used, so that no one would see your weakness. I also need you to remember that even the connections I give you must never be turned into idols. The life partner, the fellow traveler, the community I lead you into, all of these are grace, but none of them can take my place on the throne of your heart. If you elevate them to the place where I alone should reign, you will once again repeat the old cycle, giving past your limits, sacrificing even what I have not asked of you, compromising the principles I have written into your heart, all because you are afraid of losing them. Love from me always leads you into freedom, not binds you in fear. When you feel you have to hide your faith, tone down your desire for me, or silence your conscience in order to keep a relationship, you can be sure you are moving away from the orbit I desire for you. By contrast, when someone truly comes from me, they will encourage you to be more faithful to me, not less. They will remind you to return to prayer when you are in turmoil rather than pull you away from the secret place. They will honor your spiritual journey, even when they do not fully understand it. My beloved, I am doing something both gentle and radical in your life. I am cutting away what only bears the name of love, but lacks the substance of love, to make room for connections saturated with my presence. What I will entrust to you in the coming season will not be fleeting emotions that make you feel lightheaded for a few days and then drop you, but relationships that can go far, go deep, and go long because they are not built on mood or passing passion, but on the foundation of me. You will no longer have to abase yourself to beg for scraps of pity, nor numb yourself to your own pain just to keep someone from leaving. You will know that you no longer need others to prove you are worthy of love, because I have already proven it upon the cross. And as you learn to receive these new connections with gratitude while still keeping me at the center, you will not merely have someone by your side, but you will taste in some measure the image of the covenant I used to speak of my love for you, faithful, enduring, kind, unchanging, regardless of how the seasons turn. In that atmosphere, my peace will be like a cloak wrapped around your emotional life, not because there is no wind, but because you know you are no longer exposed and fighting alone. Therefore, my child, when I begin to stir up the very things I have just spoken to you about, do not sit there trying to guess how I will rearrange everything. Do not sketch out diagrams in your mind. Do not write a script in advance and then hope I will play the part you assigned me. You are not my strategic assistant. You do not need to become the architect of your own journey. Your role is not to hold the strings and control everything. Your role is to listen and to respond. I want to set you free from the burden of having to understand everything, calculate everything, and hold every detail. What I am looking for in you is not a mind constantly stretched tight, trying to anticipate every possible risk, but a heart that knows how to lower its hands and say, I do not know how you will do it, but I am willing to go with you. I know you are exhausted from living in a perpetual state of tension, afraid that if you relax even a little, everything will collapse. I want to remove from you the illusion that if you do not control things, everything will fall into chaos. In reality, it is precisely when you grip everything so tightly that you pull your life off the course I have set. I am the one who upholds the universe. I do not need you to strain yourself to hold your life together until you are burned out. What I desire is that you learn how to let me hold you. Let me speak plainly yet gently to you. What I long for is not a life draped with outward spiritual activities, while inside everything still runs on your own will. I want to see every corner of your life brought into alignment with my word, like a craftsman using a plumb line to straighten each wall. That work begins very quietly, with the seemingly small choices you make in the secret place, with how you spend your time, with the words you speak when no one is listening, with the way you respond to the people closest to you. You often want me to lay out something big and extraordinary, yet I begin by asking, today, are you willing to let me correct one attitude you have always considered normal? Are you willing to let me touch a habit you have long defended as just the way I am? When you place your heart in a posture of surrender, it means you allow me to have the final word in all of your, but I think. I want your ears to be so attuned to my voice that when I whisper only a single, gentle sentence, you are already ready to change course. I long for you to learn to open your mouth and speak what I am speaking, rather than repeat the complaints, self-accusations, and comparisons you have nurtured for so long. When you lift your voice in agreement with my word, even while nothing around you has changed, you are laying the first stones of a new road, for the mouth speaks what the heart believes, and my word on your lips will not return empty. But for these new things to truly be built, you must be prepared in your heart for the shakings I am about to allow. I do not shake things to ruin you. I shake them to reveal what is rooted in me and what is only decoration you have set up to look good. Anything not deeply planted in me, when strong winds rise, will sooner or later tremble and be uprooted. I will not allow false foundations to keep holding up your life, because if I let you keep building on them, when a real storm comes, everything will collapse in a far more cruel way. Therefore, some doors will unexpectedly close even though you thought I had opened them. Some positions where you assumed you were meant to stay for a long time will suddenly be taken from your hands. Some relationships you once considered to be your whole world will abruptly cool and drift away. Suddenly, the routines you used as a refuge will begin to fall away piece by piece. Like an old curtain I pull down so that light can stream in. I do not do this because I enjoy shocking you. I do it because I love you enough not to let you sleep soundly on a foundation that has long since decayed. When doors close, your natural response is confusion, disappointment, even a sense of being slighted. You will be tempted to cling to the doorknob, to pound on it, to try to pry it open, or to stand there replaying over and over the days when it was still open. You will hear whispers, if you just tried a little harder, maybe you could have kept that door open. If you bent yourself a little more, maybe that person would not have left. If you were willing to lose a little more of yourself, you wouldn't have to face being empty-handed. But I want you to learn a new response. Instead of clinging to the locked door, turn around, lift your eyes, and ask me, Lord, if you have closed this, what are you protecting me from? If you are taking this back, what are you preparing for me that is truer? I have already told you that some branches must be cut off and others pruned so that the whole tree can be healthier. If you keep clinging to every dead branch because you miss the blossoms of past seasons, you will never see the new shoots. When a few people quietly walk out of your life, you will feel abandoned, but sometimes it is I gently loosening the hands that are holding you back in seasons where I no longer am. You do not need to speak ill of anyone or pretend to be noble. You only need to rest in peace while I rearrange things and trust that the one who joined you also has the right to separate, because I know what is good for your soul better than you do. Døydei laban dich ting an theo, dung mach duan vasakthai tamlin kun gwen ban. There will also be projects in your mind that collapse in ways you cannot explain. Plans you have nurtured for years, roadmaps you have carefully drawn on paper, milestones you have dreamed of reaching, suddenly become things that lie still in a drawer. You startle, look back, and realize that what you thought was faith has in fact contained no small amount of ambition, of the need to prove yourself, of the effort to show the world that I can do it too. I am not tearing these things down to shame you. I let them fall so that you can see clearly what the inner structure was built from. If you insist on rebuilding everything exactly as before according to the old blueprint, you are only continuing to erect a building for which I revoked the permit long ago. I am the architect of your life. I do not patch and mend on old foundations just so you can feel that nothing is lost. I choose instead to lay the foundations again so they are firm, even if that means demolishing the very walls you have taken pride in for so long. I am building something that has never existed in your personal history, not an upgraded version of what you see in others. And so the blueprint I hold in my hand does not resemble any pattern you have ever seen. That may unsettle you because you have nothing to compare it with, but it is precisely this difference that I want to use to keep you close to me and to draw your eyes away from measuring yourself by other people's lives. You must accept that the calling I have placed on you is not an invitation to step into a safe, predictable, comfortable, cozy zone such as you have always wished for. I do not promise you a life where everyone claps in unison for you, where you are praised as talented, resourceful, or someone who knows how to enjoy life. I also do not guarantee that when you obey, you will always be supported. On the contrary, when you choose to follow the purpose I have written for you, there will be times when you feel misunderstood, judged, even looked down on by those who can only see the surface. You may never appear on the stage many people expect. You may not be placed in positions that draw applause, but what I give you will be deeper than any fleeting fame. I place my oil upon your life. The anointing I give is not something that needs to be advertised. It requires no signboard or label. It is a spiritual fragrance that hungry hearts will recognize. When I lay my hand on you, you may still wear ordinary clothes and do work that no one considers glamorous, yet your prayers will begin to carry a different weight. Your very presence will bring a different atmosphere, and the small things you do with me will become points of my touch for other people. It is that very anointing, not your efforts to perform, that will open doors no human hand can shut. It is not only a key to new opportunities, but also a stream of oil seeping into the deepest fractures within you and within others. You have tried to heal yourself in every possible way, reading countless books, listening to countless messages, seeking countless pieces of advice, yet still sensing areas of pain that nothing could touch. When I pour out my oil, I do not merely bring information. I bring power to break invisible chains, long-standing obsessions, and repeating patterns that have made you believe you cannot be any different. There are things doctors have called irreversible wounds of the soul that people say you can only learn to live with, but I am the one who heals deeper than every diagnosis. My anointing will reach places you no longer even dare to name, and from the parts you thought were utterly dead, I will cause new shoots of life to spring up. In return, I ask you one thing. Are you willing to let me lead you through stretches of road that are inconvenient for your ego, to pass through long nights, learning to be silent before me, to place your "I want" on the operating table so that I can trust you with spiritual weight without letting you collapse under the very thing you carry? Do not be afraid when you cannot see the whole picture, for I have never required you to have a strategic vision for your entire life. I only ask that you be faithful enough for the next step. Today, that step may be very simple. Speaking words of forgiveness to the one you have held resentment against for so long, ending a relationship I have warned you about many times, starting again the habit of being with me each day, adjusting careless spending, giving back to me the time you have devoted to meaningless things. Tomorrow, I will show you more. Each time you say yes to something small, you open another crack for my light to go deeper in. You do not need to try to become the perfectly obedient person. You only need to decide that you will no longer compromise with what you already know is contrary to my voice. When you do your part, keeping your heart soft, your ears open, your feet ready, my part will never be lacking. I will protect, I will make a way, I will even correct the parts where you have stumbled clumsily. As long as you still allow me to speak to you, it is never too late for me to rewrite. I can take the very pages you thought were completely stained with ink and use them to sketch a new chapter so beautiful you would never have imagined it. And when you look back, you will understand that every shaking, every loss, every time you surrendered control has become material in my hands to build a life that no longer lives under old labels, but stands as a child firmly rooted in the new name I have spoken over you. There is no clash in your spiritual life that is random or a mistake. Every time you are pushed into a corner, every night your tears soak the pillow, every season when you feel left behind, all of it lies within my sight, and not for a single moment have I taken my hand off your life. The adversary saw the seed of calling I planted in your heart very early. He recognized the prospect of a day when you would rise to stand in the very place I have prepared for you, and that prospect unsettled him. That is why he has tried every way to crush your faith from the very first steps, using hurts, misunderstandings, criticism, and stains from your past to break you before you could stand up. He wants you to believe that you are merely a survivor and never someone who is sent. He wants each of your wounds to become a chain, each failure to turn into a verdict, so that when I call, you only bow your head and whisper inside, I can't. But he has miscalculated, for throughout all the years you thought you were lost, I have been deepening your roots in my presence. When you collapsed because you no longer had the strength to pretend to be strong, it was I who kept your soul from shattering. There were days when all you could manage was to whisper, Lord, I am so tired. And you thought that prayer fell into emptiness, but I gathered every sigh into my hands, just as I promised that I count every tear of yours and that not a single sob is meaningless to me. When others could not understand why you were so changeable, why you closed in on yourself, why you so often flared up in anger and then felt guilty, only I could see through those reactions to the heart of yours being squeezed by fear, by the feeling of not being enough, by words from the past that still echo. I do not stand at a distance to judge. I sit down beside you in the middle of that chaos and whisper, I am still here, and I have never withdrawn the word I spoke over your life. You have not been able to hear this because the noise of the battle has been too loud. The relentless accusations, the voices replaying your mistakes, the comparisons that leave you breathless. Yet right in the deepest place of that confusion I have planted something very small yet very enduring. A faint but unquenchable awareness that there still seems to be something of God reserved for me. Every time you nearly give up, at the very last second a ray of light appears, a verse you happen to read, a song that touches the very wound, a person who says a sentence that feels as if it were meant just for you. You call that coincidence, but I know it is the punctuation mark I deliberately insert into the chaotic paragraphs of your life so that you do not come to a final full stop. I have not promised you a smooth journey. I have spoken plainly to those who follow me that this road carries a cross, tears, and misunderstanding. But I have also said, do not be afraid, because I am with you. Do not be thrown into confusion, because I am your God. I will give you strength. I will help you. I will take hold of your right hand and keep you standing. Those words are not there to decorate a page. They are there for you to cling to when everything else slips from your grasp. If you are willing to sit with me and look back over the road you have traveled through, my eyes, you will see something entirely different from the report fear has written for you. You are not only someone who has been beaten, you are someone who has been forged. Every time you are pushed to your limits, your heart learns another lesson, that you are not the center, that your own strength cannot hold on to anyone and cannot even save yourself, that the things you once leaned on can collapse very quickly, and only one thing remains standing, and that is me. When you were betrayed, you learned that the love you need is not a love that shifts with someone else's moods, but the love of the one who loved you while you were still weak. When you lost your way in wrong choices, you learned that my grace is not a blanket thrown over your mistakes, but the power to turn around. Stand up and step into a new path. Those events you have hated with all your heart, I have used as a furnace to burn away illusions, hidden pride, and attachments you yourself did not know you were carrying. You thought you were falling apart, but in reality I have been stripping away layer after layer of what is not truly you, until what remains is a heart that is softer, more attentive, more compassionate, and able to bend low toward others with the gaze of someone who has been forgiven. I want you to understand this. The enemy is so afraid of your future that he feels driven to attack your present with such madness, because he cannot bear the thought that one day you might become a channel through which my grace flows to people who are just like you were yesterday. He knows that if you are willing to let me touch those wounds, they will no longer be places that keep bleeding, but scars that carry a story of healing. Each scar will be living evidence that here, God touched me, and those who pass through your life will find hope there. That is why he deliberately lies to you, telling you that your past is the end of the sentence, that your mistakes have erased your name from my plans, that all you can do now is just get through the days, not be used anymore. He whispers that you are far too late, that others have gone too far ahead, that your portion has already been handed to someone else. But I want you to listen to me once again. The time when I lift a person up never follows human calendars. I do everything in a new way and in my appointed time. What you think is delay is, in my eyes, the time I use to lay the foundations deep, so that when I build high, the structure of your life will not collapse for lack of a footing. Right now, as you sit and read these lines, it is not just so you can hear a comforting word, feel a little less pain, and then go back to the way things were. I am calling you to step onto a new page. Not a page of daydreams, but a page of decision. Will you keep looking at your life through the old lens, or will you agree with me about the meaning of all the battles you have just walked through? I do not deny the brutality of what you have endured. I do not belittle your experience in order to force you into some cheap, positive thinking. I am the one who has wept with you in the nights no one else saw, so I understand you 1,000 times more deeply than you understand yourself. But precisely because I understand, I am telling you this. Those years and months cannot be allowed to end with a single line, "I suffered so much," and stop there. I have promised that all things work together for good for those who love me, who are called according to my purpose, and those all things include even the chapters you wish you could tear out of the book of your life. If you place them in my hands, I will weave them in again, using the very dark colors as the backdrop for bright threads. Left to yourself, you see only chaos, but in my hands, the story will have structure, emphasis, and a destination. I am inviting you to change the question. Instead of spending all day asking, "Why did all this have to happen to me?" begin to ask, "Lord, what new thing do you want to bring forth out of these things?" When you change the question, you move from the role of victim to the role of learner, and I, as the teacher, rejoice when I see my student open their notebook to learn the lesson. Instead of only sitting and complaining, I want to whisper this to you. In those battles I gave you first-hand experience of my faithfulness, and that is a capital more precious than anything on earth. You may lose a job, lose people, lose plans, but no one can take from you the times when you saw me keep my word, when you saw me lift you up. A person who has tasted that faithfulness carries the power to comfort those who tremble the way you once trembled, and your testimony will not be theory, it will be breath. You will not just say, "God is good," you will tell, "This is when He touched me." You will not merely advise others, "Do not be afraid." You will take their hand and whisper, "I understand. I once feared exactly like you, but He did not abandon me, and He will not abandon you." To get there, you need to do something very simple and very brave. Instead of continuing to hide the tears and rips inside, bring them before me exactly as they are. Do not sugarcoat. Do not explain them away. Do not try to act as if you have already gotten over everything if you have not. I do not need you to present a polished version of yourself. I want you to tell the truth. "Lord, I am still in pain. I am still afraid. I still do not understand why you allowed this to happen," because honesty is the doorway through which I step in deeper. When you dare to stand uncovered, you are admitting that you cannot heal yourself. And that is precisely when there is room for me to do what I do best, to turn ashes into a crown, to make the broken place the strong place, to turn the spot where you once collapsed into a crossroads from which you can point others home. I do not promise to explain every why, but I promise to walk with you through every "what do I do now?" I will not always show you the whole picture, but I will show you the next step. And if you trust me enough to take that step, you will see that gradually the chaos inside you is sorted into layers, into chapters. Do not think that you have missed the golden years of your life. With me, not a single moment is thrown away if you place it in my hands. I can use the years you wandered, the stretches of life you thought were wasted, to give you a sensitivity that those who have never been broken cannot possess. I can use the very failures you are most ashamed of to teach you a kind of mercy that does not come with judgment. I can turn what seemed like seasons of walking in circles into the necessary road where I broke certain patterns of thinking you would never have surrendered if you had gone straight. I can do this, and I want to do this, but I will not force you. I always honor your will. If you choose to keep telling the old story, to keep seeing yourself as ruined, I will still be there, still loving you, but you will miss much of what I have prepared. Yet if today, in this very moment, you look up and say, "Lord, I do not understand everything, but I hand over to you the battles I have fought. Please use them as you will," then, right there the story begins to turn. You will not hear cannons, you will not see fireworks, but in the spiritual realm, something very real will have happened. The battlefield where you once lay exhausted becomes the ground I will use to plant something new. And as you keep walking, you will find yourself changing in a strange and beautiful way, not into someone numb, nor into someone who is always strong in a hard, closed-off way, but into someone who knows they are weak and knows where to lean. You will no longer be shocked by storms, because you have learned from experience that I remain in the boat. You will be less panicked when one door shuts, because you have already seen me open doors beyond anything you could imagine. You will not be haunted by the need to prove your worth, because you have heard me call your name enough times to know that your worth was settled at the cross, not by your achievements. And you will realize all those battles, instead of destroying you, have become the school where I taught you to live as my child, not flawless, not without scars, but honest, humble, and full of hope. That is when what I planted in you from the very beginning begins to emerge. Spiritual sensitivity, compassion, the ability to understand others more deeply, the strength to stand in the storm without growing hard, a voice with weight because it has been refined in the furnace. And I, the one who has been with you from the first day and will be with you until the end, will smile as I see you finally look at your life, not through the old labels, but through my eyes, the eyes that have never stopped believing in what I have sown in you. You need to grasp something very deep that you have long heard only in passing. The things I am about to do in your life are not a reward for perfect obedience or for a flawless performance record, but the outworking of the covenant I have made with you in Christ. I am not a harsh boss sitting with a score sheet, pouring out a little blessing on those who qualify and keeping the rest forever outside. I am Father, and I move in your life because I have promised, because of my name, because of my mercy, not because you earned it. I have said that even if they are faithless, I remain faithful, because I cannot deny myself. So your foundation does not lie in whether today you did well or badly, but in the fact that I do not change my mind about what I have spoken over your life. When all you can see are the times you fell, the times you were weak, the days you were discouraged and sighed, God must have given up on me. You are viewing everything through the lens of merit, while I am inviting you to look through the lens of covenant. I have signed it with the very blood of my only Son, and that signature does not fade just because today you are trembling. I want you to know that when I am preparing to lead you into a new season, it may be a step of spiritual maturity, a deep healing, an open door of service, a wider provision. The foundation of it all is not, "You've been doing so well lately," but "I have said I will do it." My word is not a sentence meant to comfort you for a few emotional minutes and then pass. My word is a seed that carries my own life within it. When I speak, that word goes forth like an arrow that hits its target. It does not lose its way. It does not fade. It does not return to me empty. It will accomplish the purpose for which I send it. No matter how many times the circumstances around you say the opposite. You see your present like a dark room, cluttered, damp, full of cracks, and you quickly conclude, "This is my whole life." But from my perspective, this is only a construction site. The dust that is rising is not because the house is about to collapse, but because I am breaking down old walls to open a new way. You hear the sounds of breaking, of falling, of upheaval, and think they are signs that I have withdrawn my hand. But many times they are the very proof that I am working closer than ever. Do not be quick to believe the report your emotions give you about your future, because your emotions can see only a few steps ahead, while I see from beginning to end. You often look at a difficult season, a string of failures, a time of dryness, and call it the conclusion, whereas I call it a transitional chapter. Like a book, there are chapters that are heavy, dark, filled with tears, but no wise reader closes the book halfway through and declares, "This story is terrible, there is no ending." I am the author who does not abandon the manuscript. I have begun a good work in you. I will stay with you to the end, to complete it, not write a few pages and then leave to look for a more interesting character. When you turn back through the old pages of your life and see only messy lines, unfinished passages, pages full of errors, remember this: that is the part I let you write when you were holding the pen yourself. Now I want you to place that pen back in my hand so that I can begin to correct, erase, rewrite, connect again, and turn the parts you want to tear out into evidence of my grace. I do not write your future with use once and fade ink. I write with the ink of eternity, which means that what I engrave on your life will echo through this life and the life to come. When I write, I do not use the language of condemnation. You deserve this. You are out of chances. I use the language of mercy. I know you are weak, and I still choose to walk with you. I see you fall, and I still call you to stand. I hear your sigh, and I turn it into prayer. You imagine that I am recording all your faults in a book in order to punish you. But in truth, what I delight to do is to strike them out, wipe them away, cover them with the blood of my Son, and then keep writing new sentences. I do not deny what is wrong. I do not excuse sin. But I also do not stop there forever. I correct in order to set free. I break in order to heal. When you return, when you repent, when you admit that you need me, that is the very moment I take the ink of mercy and write again, and every old word of condemnation loses its force, nor do I use the language of despair when I speak about you. You may call yourself beyond help, impossible to change. My life is ruined, but I never use those phrases. I am the one who saw light in the original darkness. I said, "Let there be light," when the universe was still a formless chaos. I see what is not yet as though it already were, and I call the seeds within you out of places that seem dead. When all you can see is a heap of ashes, I see green shoots pushing up under the dry soil. When you see a tightly shut door, I see the whole road that lies beyond it. I am not blindly optimistic. I know every crack in you, every harmful tendency, every old habit, and precisely because of that, I am even more certain that only I can continue writing your story in a way that does not end in a dead end. I do not write with a hand that trembles before your failures. I write with the steady hand of the one who has overcome sin and death. You also need to know that I do not build your future on your weakness, but on my power. You often look back at the times you tried and failed, the promises you made and could not keep, and then you think, I am this weak. Surely the Lord has given up on me. But I have said that my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in your weakness. That means I do not wait until you become complete before I begin to shape and build. I use those very weak places as the spaces where my power can rest, like a potter using the cracks in a vessel as places where light can seep through. I do not call you to strain and force yourself into a strong version in order to be worthy of my plan. I call you to learn to lean on me, to learn to confess your inability, so that my power has room to work. The future I draw for you is not a string of achievements you gain by willpower, but a journey of walking in dependence on me, so that every step becomes a testimony. This is the Lord's doing, not mine. Therefore, today, I want you to lay down the habit of predicting your future based on the worst day you have just gone through. A dry season does not define an entire life. A single failure cannot cancel a promise. One step back does not make me cancel the race you are meant to finish. I look at you through the cross, where my Son said, "It is finished," not through your most recent stumble. When I discipline you, it is because I acknowledge you as my child, not because I am tired of you. When I allow you to walk through bitter seasons, it is so that you may know your own heart, know your limits, and cling to me more closely. There is no chapter in which I leave you to fend for yourself, not even the chapters where you think I am silent. I am standing in the wings, directing the light, preparing the characters, arranging the setting, waiting only for the right moment to open the scene of the new act. I want you to step into, learn to look back over your life as a series of times when I have intervened, even if you could not name it then. The times when you just happened to escape an accident, the times you, coincidentally, met someone who said exactly what you needed to hear, the moments when you were exhausted and someone unexpectedly lifted you up, the seasons that seemed like they would end in lack, but somehow there was enough in the end. All those small dots, if you connect them, will reveal a faint but real line. I have never withdrawn my hand. Those things are the basis for you to trust that what is coming will also not slip out of my control. I do not promise you a smooth road, but I promise my companionship. I do not promise that you will never cry, but I promise that no tear will be meaningless. I do not promise that you will have everything you want, but I promise you will have everything you truly need in order to fulfill the purpose I have for you. So instead of sitting there measuring how much blessing you think you deserve, come back to the simplicity of trusting me, holding on to my word, talking with me, and taking the small steps I show you. I will teach you how to live as someone who has been promised to, not as a tenant living on sufferance. I will teach you to wait without despair, to work without pride, to receive without losing reverence. Whenever a blessing comes, you will learn to ask me, how am I to use this? Instead of hastily clutching it for yourself, whenever a new door opens, you will ask, Lord, is this the way you have opened? Instead of relying only on how attractive it looks. I want you to walk with me, not run ahead, not lag behind, not turn off to the side, so that each new chapter written is no longer a series of weary experiments, but the journey of a child who knows they are loved, shaped, led, and protected. And as you live this way, you will realize that what I am doing is not merely rewriting the later chapters of your story, but slowly healing the beginning as well. I will bring my light back into the old dark corners so that you can look back without being paralyzed, speak about them without shame, and use the very things you once wanted to hide to comfort and strengthen others. In my hands, the story of your life will no longer be a resume of failures, but a testimony to my kindness. A kindness that has pursued you, corrected you, waited for you, and in the end has softened your heart. What is coming in your life, whatever form it takes, flows within that same current, not a medal for a person who never makes a mistake, but the fruit of a promise I have sown that has now come to fruition, so that my name is honored, your heart is steadied, and many others are drawn closer to me through your very story. You need only hold on to my hand, leave the rest for me to keep writing, and precisely because I do not want blessing to pull you away from me, when I see your heart turning back, when I see you ready for me to touch the deepest and most hidden places, I will no longer keep you in that weary, endless waiting. I am not a father who enjoys dragging things out just to test you for fun. I am the one who knows exactly when a seed has put down enough roots to push through the soil, when a heart has become soft enough to bear the weight of what I am about to place in it. In these past years, there were seasons when you felt as if you were running but hardly moving forward, praying and praying yet seeing no breakthrough, staying faithful while doors remained closed and still. You once thought I was silent, but in reality, I was gathering all those things together like someone storing up water behind a dam. At the appointed time, with just a lift of my hand, the waters will spill over, and the things that once seemed overdue will begin to follow one another in quick succession. What in another season might have taken years to take shape, in this season, I will do more swiftly, because I have used those barren stretches before to build endurance inside you. But you must understand, I do not skip the process in the hurried way people do. I only shorten the unnecessary stretches because the deepest part of you has already been touched by me, and it is time for you to step into the works I prepared beforehand for you. You will sense this shift not only on the outside, but first of all, in your inner reactions. The very things that used to throw you into turmoil, restlessness, and the urge to give up will still come, but you will no longer be swept away by them as before. In the past, a single rejection was enough to pull you down into shame, a single failure enough for you to conclude, God will not use me. But in this season, I will allow you to face pressure again. Only now, with a new inner strength I have quietly built within you, you will find that you no longer jump up at every word of praise, nor collapse under every word. of criticism, because you know your worth does not lie in people's feedback, but in the way my eyes look at you. The setbacks, delays, and confusions the enemy once used to break you, I will now use as exercises for you to learn to stand firm, instead of asking, "Why is there yet another problem?" You will learn to ask, "Lord, in this situation, what are you trying to mature in me?" When you begin to ask questions like that, it means you are stepping out of the position of a victim and into the position of a child in training. And in that position, you will begin to see pathways where before you saw only walls. The things that seemed shut forever, I will touch one by one in my own order, not according to the priority list you wrote out, but according to the sequence that is best for your soul. Some doors have remained silent for so long that you told your own heart, "Don't hope anymore. It will hurt less that way," yet I will suddenly turn the key, not to prove that you were right to wait, but to show you that I have never forgotten a single prayer lifted up from a sincere heart. Some dreams you folded away and buried deep in a drawer because you thought you were unworthy, unsuited, or underqualified, I will gently take out, dust off, and place back into your hands, saying, "Now it is time. You are not who you used to be." Those areas you labeled as completely dead, an aspect of your calling, a dream of serving, a longing from days gone by, will begin to pulse with life again. Like cracked earth, hearing the first drops of early rain, still hard at first, but slowly absorbing the water as roots begin to go deeper, so the words I have spoken over your life all this time will begin to soak in one after another, and you will be surprised to find yourself living in things you once only dared to write in your journal as distant promises. I will also touch the areas you deemed hopeless, the stubborn parts of your character, the repeated habits that make you tired of yourself, the wounds you assumed could only be tolerated, never truly healed. In the days to come, you will notice small but unmistakable changes. Places where you used to explode, you will now be able to pause and breathe. Situations from which you used to run, you will now be able to face and speak truth. Moments when you used to keep silent out of fear, you will now dare to speak up with humility, yet with clarity. This is not you straining to improve yourself. It is the sign that I am exchanging your heart of stone for a heart of flesh, softening the hard places inside, just as I promised. You will begin to lose your old reflexes, no longer rushing to blame, no longer rushing to defend your ego, no longer rushing to withdraw just because you were misunderstood once. You will begin to turn to me right in the middle of your emotions, allowing me to adjust you at the root, rather than merely plastering a thin layer of calm on the surface. Then you will realize that spiritual acceleration is not a momentary sense of excitement, but the way I compress many years of training into very specific moments, so that each time you choose my way, you make a longer leap forward on the journey of maturity. However, I must tell you this so that you keep your heart alert. Once the pace of work, open doors, and new connections begins to intensify, temptation to slip back into old ways will become more subtle. You will more easily think that you are busy for God and no longer need to listen as carefully as before, more easily assume that God is using me so powerfully that the small inner warnings no longer need to be examined. I do not accelerate you so that you run away from me, but so that you learn to run with me. Each time you feel yourself being pulled too fast by demands, invitations, and compliments, I want you to stop and ask, "Lord, is this from you or only from the momentum of everything around me?" If you allow me to set the pace, I will show you what to receive, what to decline, and what to postpone. I will teach you to bravely say no to opportunities that do not belong to you, even when they seem attractive. Speed is not my only measure. For me, obedience and depth are the true evidence that you are moving in the right direction. The water in a river may rush strongly, yet it still has banks. I want your life to be like that, dynamic and fruitful, yet always bounded by the lines drawn by the fear of me. You will also see a strange reversal, precisely in the areas where you once grew weary of waiting, the very places where you were stalled, blocked, or forgotten. I will use to display my faithfulness. Relationships that grew cold, if you walk in humility and forgiveness, I can bring them back into their proper place, not so that you become dependent on them, but so that together you may reveal me. Areas of service that once lay frozen, if you are willing to take the small steps I show you, I will melt them gradually. It will not always be through dramatic breakthroughs, but sometimes through a small open door, a small group of people. A modest assignment, yet each step like that is part of the map by which I lead you. I will let you taste what it means for me to redeem the years that seem to have slipped away, not by paying you back with the same number of opportunities you think you lost, but by pouring into each present moment a depth you did not have before. One day spent in the exact place I have set you, with a pure heart and ears that can hear me, will carry the weight of many years you once spent running in circles after your own will. I also want to remind you not to compare your pace with anyone else's in this season. When you see others being given open doors and experiencing change, you are easily drawn back into the old game of measuring who is used more, who is further along, who is more successful. Yet every child who walks in my house is equally precious. The only difference is that each is entrusted with a different portion of work. I will not ask you why you did not become like someone you admired. I will ask you why you did not live fully what I placed uniquely within you. Acceleration is not for you to join a race of spiritual achievements, but so that you are no longer tied down by the ropes that once bound your feet. When you keep your eyes on me, you will rejoice at seeing your brothers and sisters lifted up, because you understand that the blessing upon them does not take away your share. It only proves that I am moving more widely and more swiftly, and that you are invited to join in. In all of this, I have not stepped away from you even one pace. I will be there in every morning you wake up thinking, everything is moving so fast, I cannot keep up. I will be there in every night you wrestle with new decisions. I will be right beside you when you have to say no to things you once wanted so much, and I will also be there when you must say yes to steps that push you far beyond your comfort zone. Each time you are tempted to return to your old patterns, to fear, withdrawal, blaming, discouragement, I will remind you of what I have been doing in your heart all this time, so that you remember you are no longer that trembling child you once were. You have the right to say to fear, I no longer belong to you. I belong to the one who is renewing my mind. And every time you choose to stand up instead of shrinking back, to trust me instead of the whisper of discouragement, you are aligning yourself with what I have spoken. I live in you, and I do not know defeat. This does not mean you will never stumble, but each time you stumble, you will rise faster, learn more, and go deeper into the knowledge of me. That is the new rhythm of life I am calling you into. No longer a string of days spent merely trying to survive, but a journey of walking with me, where every desert is led into pasture, every bend in the road becomes a classroom, and every open door is no longer a stage for you to show yourself, but a place for you to recognize that I am still in the midst of all things, and still patiently shaping you until my likeness is stamped deeply upon your life. My child, not a single sigh of yours drifts off into the void without my knowing it. Even the words you never manage to form into sentences, the cries that stay locked inside when you are so weary you no longer have the strength to pray, I still hear them clearly. The tears you wipe away in haste so that no one will see, I do not let them fall to the ground in vain. I lift them up as one would lift drops of precious oil, and I let the scent of that pain rise before me like a shimmering offering on the altar. There are nights when you think you are the only one tossing and turning, but I am standing beside your bed, watching you turn this way and that, half wanting to talk with me, half wanting only to sink into silence. Even when you whisper only, "Lord, I am so tired," I receive it as a true prayer, not as a meaningless complaint. I do not overlook anything that comes from the depths of your heart, however clumsy, tangled, or unfinished it may be. To me, what I look at first is not how polished your words are, but how genuine your heart is. There are seasons when you think I am silent, because you do not see any answer that fits what you had hoped for. You cry out for a way to be opened, yet every door in front of you remains tightly shut. You ask to be healed at once, yet your body still carries its pain. Your mind still bears its scars. You look around and conclude, the Lord has probably forgotten me, or he does not want to respond. But my child, the fact that you do not yet see anything changing does not mean that I am doing nothing. I am still moving behind the scenes, weaving together things you cannot see, arranging people you have not yet met, preparing gifts which, if I were to place them in your hands right now, you would not yet have the strength to carry. At times I answer your prayer by giving you a new capacity to endure, rather than by lifting the burden off your shoulders all at once. At times I answer by firmly closing a door you so desperately want to open, in order to guard you from something that, a few years from now, you will thank me for not giving you. I am a father, not a wish-granting machine. My answers are always based on something deeper than what you want. They are based on who you are becoming. Prepare your heart for the ways I may appear that you did not expect. I love to surprise you, but not with the cheap kind of surprise that shows off flashy miracles. I delight in showing up at the very moment you think everything is as good as finished, so that you can no longer use your own effort, your plans, or your wisdom as the explanation. It pleases me to see the skeptic fall, silent because they cannot deny the imprint of my hand on the life of someone as small as you. It also pleases me when those who once looked down on you are forced to honestly face the change in you and to recognize that there is someone at work inside you whom they cannot dismiss. When I work, I often choose ways that leave what is called the wisdom of this world bewildered. People calculate in straight lines, but I carve a path right through the places they insist are sealed shut. I do not do this to play games with anyone, but so that no one can pound their chest and say, "My own hands have done this." I will defend you in a way very different from the way the world does. I have no interest in retaliation, in showing them what you're made of, or in making anyone lose face just to satisfy your anger. That is not my nature. When I say I will vindicate you, it means that I will reveal the truth about you in a way so clear that you no longer need to defend yourself. I will show people that you are my child by letting them see me more and more clearly in your attitude, your words, and your way of life. They will begin to notice the one who used to flare up in anger now pauses and slows down. The one who used to be bitter now learns to forgive. The one who used to be small-minded now can be generous. The one who used to tremble and shrink back now dares to stand up and do what is right. That quiet transformation is the strongest defense I give you. Every argument, every attempt at self-justification on your part is limited, but a life that has been touched by me is a living letter I will use to answer every insinuation and misunderstanding about you. That is why I am not in a hurry to explain you immediately. I am writing an answer with your very life. But, my child, precisely because I am preparing you to step into greater things, greater influence, greater trust, greater blessing, I must speak to you very plainly. The more you are given, the more you must stay awake. A blessing is not only a gift, it is also a test of the heart. When I place more into your hands, more people listening to you, more resources, more open doors, that is when I am placing a greater responsibility on your shoulders. I do not throw precious things into the hands of someone who is asleep. Do not think that having anointing and results is enough. I have told you many times that what I look for first is not talent, but a heart that knows how to bow low. Pride never floods in all at once in a single day. It seeps in drop by drop, through every word of praise you swallow quickly without bringing it up to me. Through each moment you begin to compare yourself with your brothers and sisters. Through every time you secretly believe that, without me, this work would not run. If you do not let me wipe away those small drops early, they will harden into a thick crust over your heart until you no longer tremble before me the way you once did. Be careful how you look at what you have. If one day you find yourself talking more about what you have done for the Lord than about what the Lord has done for you, stop and examine your heart. If you find yourself troubled when others are being used mightily and noticed, while you are barely mentioned, it shows that the center of gravity in your heart has begun to shift. I give each person a different portion so that no one can hold everything in their own hands, and so that you may learn mutual dependence. When you use the gift I entrusted to you to build a private platform for yourself instead of laying it down as a brick in my common house, the blessing begins to change shape into a trap. I do not want you to end up there, so even now, while you are still small and not prominent, I am already teaching you to live like someone who always remembers, apart from you, I can do nothing, not as a slogan, but as a reality you can feel in every breath. I know you do, not set out to be proud. Many times, you are simply swept along by the speed at which everything around you is happening. Work piles up, people come to you, needs are many, messages keep pouring in, doors keep opening one after another, leaving you with fewer and fewer quiet spaces. And it is precisely in those spaces that are no longer quiet that your reverence for me begins to wear thin. Before, every time you stood up to do anything for me, you would tremble and say, "Lord, have mercy on me. Do not let me say or do anything outside your will." Now you step into it as into a familiar cycle. You know your material, you know the methods, you know how to create an impression, you know how to move people's emotions. In itself, none of that is wrong, but it becomes terribly dangerous if you no longer pause to ask, "Today, Lord, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to say? When do you want me to be silent? Where do you want me to stop?" When you become so accustomed to working for God that you no longer need God to lead you step by step, you are walking very close to the line where the gift is exalted above the giver. I invite you to keep a place in your heart for holy amazement. Do not let your soul grow hardened like that of a seasoned professional who already knows, is already used to it. Hold on to the trembling of those first days when you realized I truly live, truly speak, truly intervene. Remember the days when you had nothing in your hands but a few awkward words, yet you treasured every moment you had alone with me. I want you to bring even your busy seasons, even the times when you are much in demand, and lay them back on the altar, like someone returning to me the very things I first gave them. Do not let it be only in lack that you seek me, while in abundance you are absorbed only in your own portion. I am still the only one worthy of your focused attention, whether you are in the depths or on the heights. Learn to hold lightly everything that lies in your hands, but to hold tightly to the one who holds your hand. If one day I ask you to let go of a position, a door, a relationship, or even a familiar way of serving in order to keep your heart from being torn in two, will you be willing? I once asked an earthly father to place his only son on the altar, not because I took pleasure in his loss, but because I wanted to see in his heart whether he loved the gift or the giver more. In the end, it was I who stopped his hand and provided another sacrifice, but through it, I deepened in him the conviction that nothing, however precious, is allowed to take my place. It is the same with you. I do not necessarily plan to take away what you have, but I will go into every corner and ask you, if I require this of you, will you dare to lay it down? Not so that I can strip you of everything, but so that you are no longer bound by the invisible cords called possession. Do not be afraid of those questions. That is how I keep you from losing your way. I did not create you so that you would live in fear every time I touch something in your life. But neither do I want you to fall asleep on the soft bed called being used and being blessed. Come to me like a child holding their favorite toy, offering it to their father and saying, "Thank you for giving this to me. If you want to use it however you wish, or even if you want me to put it away for a while, I still trust that you are thinking of what is good for me." When you live like that, blessings can no longer control you. They become tools in my hand to reach more people. Great responsibility does not mean a burden that crushes you, but a privilege of partnering with me in my work. So, my child, amid all the applause and all the criticism, in the moments when doors swing wide open or suddenly close, there is one thing I ask you to guard carefully. Do not let your heart drift far from me. If you keep your eyes fixed on me, you will not be dazzled by your own light. If you keep a tenderness when you hear my word, you will not grow callous under praise or blame. If you keep coming back to ask me about every decision, every step, everything you do for the Lord, I will not let you walk alone. I am the source of every blessing, and I am also the only place you can return to when you feel weighed down by those very blessings. Come to me more often than you come to your work, your ideas, your plans. Let me be the first name you call on, not the last option when everything else has failed. I myself am your portion, the inheritance you will never lose, the only one to whom, when you give everything, you are never at a loss. I am the one who gives you all things, but above all, I am the most precious gift you will ever receive. And if you hold fast to this connection, no matter how far you go or how high you rise, you will never wander outside my heart. You need to be honest with yourself. There have been times when you thought that spiritual revival had to look like crowds of people, loud music, surging emotions, tears streaming down your face, gatherings that give you goosebumps. And if those things were missing, you immediately concluded, God is not doing anything in me. But I see straight into your heart, and I know there are very noisy moments on the outside when inside you are cold as stone, standing in a sea of raised hands, while your soul still feels as if it is standing outside the door. That is not what I am looking for, because I have said that I seek those who worship me in spirit and in truth. John 4:23-24, not in crowds or in bursts of ungoverned emotion. The true resurrection life I am quietly building in you does not rush in like a storm. It is steady and deep like an underground stream flowing beneath dry ground for many years. You have grown used to measuring fire by how stirred up everything feels. I measure it by how willing you are to surrender to me in the secret place. You look to the experiences that give you chills. I look to the moments when you quietly say yes to me, when no one sees, no one praises you, no one even knows. I know there were seasons when you stood in the congregation singing with your mouth, I give you my whole life. Yet as soon as you walked out the door, you still kept for yourself a few forbidden zones. And it was right there that you began to grow weary, and to think that faith was nothing more than a set of repeated rituals with nothing real in them. I do not blame you for being tired, but I do not want you to live forever in a form of religion that is just enough to keep up appearances, yet not enough to break the chains inside you. That is why I am touching the places in your soul that seemed long dead, the dreams you buried, the desires to serve me that you folded away, the times you said, that is probably not for me, and quietly stepped back into humility, the background. You call that realism. I call it a wound that has not yet been healed by me. Revival in your life is not a program or a slogan. It is the moment when the parts of your heart that have been numb begin to beat again, when the good seed I have sown in you refuses to lie still any longer, but rises up, demanding to live, to breathe, to go all the way with me. You once thought those barren places were beyond hope, but I am still the one who makes dry bones live again, Ezekiel 37, still the one who calls things that are not as though they were. I do not look at you through the lens of your past failures. I look at you through what I ordained for you before you ever saw the light of day. In truth, you did not grow cold only because of circumstances, but also because you allowed too many idols to quietly take my place in your heart. The idol of self, the idol of other people, the idol of worldly success, the idol of a life that is safe and undisturbed, where no one can touch you. Those idols sometimes carry very religious names, my ministry, my dream of serving God, but deep underneath, they serve your hidden pride and your need for recognition more than my will. I am not destroying your life, but I will cause those idols to topple, because I know that if they remain standing, you will keep circling around them until you are exhausted. When I shake things, you think I am opposing you, but in reality, I am taking your side against the very things that are slowly killing your soul while you still mistake them for shelter. I do not want a spiritual life that is just enough so you do not feel guilty. I want you truly free, and true freedom only comes when truth takes the central place. As I have said, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. That truth is not just a few sentences you copy into a notebook. It is the realization that I alone am Lord, and you are not the center, the recognition that I love you too much to let you go on living half-heartedly, lukewarm, forever. You have often longed, Lord, please let me burn with fire again. But what you wanted was a fire that was only an intense, emotional state for a few hours or a few days, after which you could go on holding the same old compromises. I am different. I am not satisfied with flashes of light that flare up and then die out. I want to kindle in you a fire that nothing can extinguish, not a fire of display, but the fire of perseverance, of obedience, of faithfulness. I am exchanging fleeting fire for enduring fire. You will no longer only weep for a moment and then go on doing your own will, but you will learn to say no to the things that do not please me, even when your heart does not yet feel very spiritual. That is the sign that you are being transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. No longer relying on feelings to decide whether I am near or far. And you need to know this. I did not write your name in the book of heaven just to threaten you every time you stumble. I engraved your name there as proof that you belong to me, that all of heaven knows you are here, that your life is not drifting aimlessly and will not be lost in some forgotten place. You often see yourself through the labels others have stuck on you: slow, failure, behind, not as good as anyone, and then you draw conclusions about your future. I guess this is as far as I will ever go, but I look at you through the seal of the Holy Spirit, the one imprinting my presence upon your soul, as a guarantee that what I have promised will not be stolen from you. 2 Corinthians 1:22. The calling over your life is not a passing inspiration. It is a plan I thought of long before, confirmed by my own Spirit, who keeps whispering inside you every time you want to give up but cannot turn your back completely. There are days when you look ahead and see only fog. You call your future a question mark, a string of unknowns, a fear that I am late, I must be missing God's will. I want you to hear clearly today, from where I look down. Your future is not a terrifying blank page, much less a dark and shapeless void, but something like a story over which I have already placed an exclamation point at the end. It is not an exclamation mark of boasting, but an exclamation mark of grace. I have done this in their life. It is the hushed wonder of angels, not because you are impressive, but because I have never taken my hand off your life. I have begun a work in you. I will not withdraw halfway. I am not human that I should change. My mind, not like those who once promised and then turned their backs on you. My word teaches that the one who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ's return. Philippians 1-6. And I did not say that just to sound beautiful. I said it so that you would have something solid to hold on to whenever you look around and feel slower, smaller, and less than everyone else. You compare your timetable with that of your friends, your peers, those you consider successful in the Lord, and then you quietly conclude, I must be going backwards. I must have missed God's train. But you forget that I do not use the world's clocks to measure the progress of your soul. There are things I deliberately slow down, not because you have been disqualified, but so that your roots can sink deep into me. A shoot that springs up quickly in shallow soil withers easily, but a tree that grows slowly in deep ground will stand firm in the storm. Many times you see only the surface of others. They do a lot, they speak well, they are praised, they have visible results, while you quietly sow in hidden corners where no one sees, still wrestling with inner things no one knows about. You think you are falling behind, but I see a quiet yet precious process. Your heart is learning to move from doing to be seen, to doing because my seeing is enough, from needing instant results to calm your confusion, to daring to trust me, even when you see nothing yet. That is what true revival in your heart really is. When you stop chasing a spectacular performance and begin to long for a life that delights me, even if no one knows your name. You are not late, because I do not govern your life by your shifting emotions, nor do I run it according to people's metrics and timelines. You are in the right place on the map I hold in my hand, even though for now your eyes cannot understand why you must take detours, why you must stop, why others seem to stride ahead while you feel as if you are being pulled back. If you look closely, you will see that at every bend I have left footprints, a word of comfort, a verse of scripture that pierces your heart, a person I have sent at just the right time, a door that closed but inside it was a protection from disaster you knew nothing about. All these things join together into a single red thread running through your whole life, a thread named, I am still here. What I am doing is not a series of random events, but a glorious timetable I have already laid out, in which even the parts you think are going backward or standing still are in fact the times you are being trained to stand firmer for the seasons to come. I speak to you, not so that you can lie still and excuse yourself, saying, God has fixed everything already, so I don't need to respond, but so that you will know. Every step you choose to take in following me today will never be meaningless. Every time you choose to return, to repent, to lay down an old habit, to forgive instead of holding on to resentment, to go on praying when you feel nothing at all of these I record as bricks on the road I am building together with you. And it is precisely as you live your ordinary days, with such a heart, quiet yet steadfast, that you will become a living testimony of a kind of revival that is not noisy but enduring, a person who once was broken yet now knows how to rise and walk on with me, who once was lost yet now knows the way back, who once wrote a final full stop over their own life, yet now has begun to live as a story with my exclamation mark at the end, not because you are perfect, but because you allow me to keep writing. So today, I say to you, stop hanging your head so low, stop walking as if you were a defeated one, stop letting old tears keep clouding your vision. Slowly lift up your eyes, even if your neck has grown used to bowing for so long. Stand upright, even if your legs are trembling from so many disappointments. I know there are evenings when you feel utterly drained, wanting only to pull the blanket over your head and disappear. Yet in that very moment I am there, not standing far off, not folding my arms to watch, but sitting close beside you, placing my hand on your back like a father soothing a child who has just fallen. I do not demand that you appear strong at once. I simply invite you to take small steps. Draw a deep breath, whisper my name in silence. Dare to believe that tomorrow does not have to look exactly like yesterday. Allow joy, the very joy you thought had died long ago, to begin to flicker back to life, not the cheap kind that comes from a few messages or glances, but the quiet joy of someone who knows they have not been abandoned. The very one who has met countless people at the darkest moments of their lives, in deserts, prisons, battlefields, locked rooms, is also present now in your room, amid the tangle of your thoughts, amid all the whys you still have no answer for. Remember the stories you have heard from Scripture and from the testimonies of those who have gone before you. I stepped into Hagar's life just when she felt like a discarded one, driven out of her master's house. I came to Elijah when he wanted to give up under the broom tree. I came to the disciples when they had locked the doors out of fear. I did not choose to seek them out when they were at the height of success, but when they had hit the bottom of despair. And now I do not wait for you to be fine before I set foot in your world. You may feel as if you are in a room no one can understand or reach, but I have entered it even before you managed to lock the door. The voice that has called each person by name, Saul, Saul, Mary, Simon, is today calling your name as well, not confusing you with anyone else. You are not one file among countless others, not one face in a sea of faces. You are a person I have fully known since before you were formed. What is happening is not random, not some cruel joke of fate, but part of a journey I hold entirely in my hands, even though for you right now it may look like nothing more than scattered fragments that cannot be put together. There are times when you think I am withdrawing, yet it is precisely in these foggy years that I am carrying you in my arms, and you do not realize it. You think you are the one straining under the load, but if I were to draw back my hand even a little, you would have collapsed long ago. I have carried you through the days when your eyes were swollen from crying, through the mornings when you could hardly bring yourself to get out of bed, through the hours you sat in front of a screen with a mind gone blank. I was there when you bit your lip to keep from bursting into tears in the crowd. I was there when you pretended to be fine in conversations while your heart felt torn apart. I was there when you wanted to pray but could not form any words, only sighs, only silence. I hear even the cries that never make a sound. I can translate every tear into words, and I gather them all, not missing a single drop. One day, when I let you look back, you will realize that you were carried much more than you ever walked on your own. You will be stunned to discover that the stretches of road you thought were lonely trudging were actually the stretches where I bore you on my shoulders, like a shepherd carrying a lost sheep home. A time will come when, as the mist of this season lifts, you look back and no longer see only gray. You will sit there, perhaps still in the same familiar room, but your eyes will see everything with a new depth. You will remember the days that seemed meaningless and suddenly understand. So it was the Lord who was refining me through those very days. You will tell the story to others, not in the tone of someone reciting another person's tale, but with a voice rising from a place that once hurt very deeply. You will open your mouth and say, "Back then I thought I had lost everything, but now I see. You never let go of my hand. Back then I felt overlooked, but now I see. You were quietly teaching me to discern and to learn how to love myself in you. Back then I believed there was nothing left worth hoping for, but now I see that on that very heap of ruins you were sowing new seeds. You will weep, but not with the bitter tears of before. They will be tears of gratitude, choked with the realization that you have been kept, rescued, lifted up in ways you could never have imagined, and one day you will say to others, "Look at how he has intervened in the smallest details of my life." You will come to see that not a single step was unnecessary, not a single moment wasted. Even the failures you are most ashamed of have been used by me as raw material to shape you into someone gentle, patient, able to put yourself in another person's place. You will tell it again with clarity in your eyes instead of bitterness. If it had not been for those days, I would never have known the Lord as the one who comforts the brokenhearted. If it had not been for the times I was left behind, I would never have seen him come to stand beside me at the very end of the line. If it had not been for the nights when I could only sigh and could not form a single prayer, I would never have discovered that his Spirit intercedes for me with groanings too deep for words. And those who are listening to you, those who are exactly where you once were, will see hope begin to flicker, not because you speak so well, but because behind every word is the imprint of a very real, very living one whom you have encountered. From that point on, your knowledge of me within you will no longer stop at the level of theory. I do not want you to stop at merely knowing many Bible verses, being able to argue, being able to explain, while your heart is still confused as if you had never met me. I want the verses you have read to become blood flowing in your veins, to become your very breath, to become the way you respond in the ordinary moments of life. I want the words, "I will never leave you nor forsake you," to be more than a beautiful quote on social media, but to become something you have experienced in the days when you thought you had been abandoned. I want the promise, "For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, thoughts of peace and not of evil," to be more than a sentence written in your journal, but to be the anchor that keeps you from drifting when everything around you seems to be falling apart. I want you to become living proof that my word is not a pile of cold concepts, but a seed that can sprout, grow, and bear flowers in a heart that knows how to guard it, even if that heart has once been torn apart. You will learn how to live as someone who carries the word with them, not just someone who talks about the word. Your footsteps, the way you choose to love, the way you forgive, the way you rise after every fall, all of that will speak of me more than long sermons ever could. What you once only knew with your intellect, you will now know through encounter, just as you will no longer only say, "The Lord is the healer," because you heard someone else's story, but because you yourself have been healed of invisible wounds. You will no longer have to strain yourself to prove that you believe, because your heart, after passing through the fire, will cling to me as a natural reflex. You will look again at the promises I have placed over your life, about your worth, your calling, your future, and instead of thinking they are only for special cases, you will begin to walk, step by step, inside those very words, adjusting your choices, changing the way you speak, shifting the direction of your gaze, daring to stand in the place I call you to, even while you are still trembling. That is when the promise moves from the page into your living, from your lips into your hands and feet. You may hear another voice whisper, "All of this sounds too beautiful, like a fairy tale that was never meant for someone like you." I want you to know this is not a fanciful dream you have drawn for yourself to feel better, nor is it a short play I have hastily staged on the platform of your emotions. This is a spiritual reality I have prepared in advance for those who dare to take my hand and walk with me to the end. It is the journey of faith, not blind faith, but faith that looks at the history of what I have done, looks at the cross, looks at the empty tomb, looks at countless transformed lives, and from there chooses to believe that I can do the same with you. This is the path I have foretold, the intention I have spoken, the word I do not take back. It is not, if you are lucky, it will happen, if not, then never mind, but it is, my declaration over your life, if you are willing to respond. You belong to a lineage that is unlike what the world tries to define for you. You are not merely the product of a family, an education system, a country, of wounds, or of wrong decisions. You belong to the line of people I have called out, of darkness, like Abraham stepping out of his land and his clan, like Ruth leaving her homeland to follow the path I marked out, like Mary saying, "Let it be to me," in the midst of so many things she did not understand, like countless other unnamed ones who agreed to let me continue writing the story of their lives. They too trembled, they too were afraid, they too asked questions, they too could not see the road ahead, but they did not let go of my hand. And now, it is your turn to stand in that line, not forgotten at the very end, but as the next link in the chain, cherished by me. I am refining you not to break you, but to remove the things that would snap you later on, so that you can bear the weight of what I am about to entrust to you. Therefore, even if at present you see nothing but fog, keep walking with me, even if it is just one small step at a time. I have not finished writing the story of your life. What you are going through now is not a full stop, but a comma. Right now, in this very moment as you are reading these words, I am at work in places your eyes cannot see. I am realigning connections, clearing roads within your heart, cutting off a few dead branches, watering the tender shoots again, turning around things you thought were fixed forever. Let me hold your hand. There will come a day when you yourself, not someone else, will tell the story. In those days, I was at the very bottom of the pit, but he did not leave me there. He came down, lifted me up, washed off the dust, changed my garments, and set me in a place I never thought I could be worthy of. When that day comes, you will understand more deeply than ever that none of it was by your own strength, but by the one who loved you, called you, chose you, and patiently waited for you until the final moment. In this very moment, quiet your soul, open your whole heart, and speak with me in the most honest prayer you can, hiding nothing, pretending nothing, like a child returning to their Father. Almighty God, Father of mercies, today I come before you with all the labels I have stuck on my own life over the years. I have called myself worthless, a failure, someone who ruins everything, someone unworthy of your gaze. So many times I have believed the voices of people, of my wounds, of the past, more than I believed your voice speaking in your word. Please forgive me for all the times I have treated lightly the new name you gave me, for all the times I have despised the price of your only Son's blood poured out to restore my true identity. Today, I bring each of those labels and lay them at the foot of the cross, asking you to remove them from my mind, from my emotions, from the way I see myself. Holy Spirit, please burn up every old accusation and write deeply in my heart that I am a child of God, loved, chosen, and called by name. Please help me no longer live as a victim of my past, but as someone whose story is being rewritten by you. Teach me to trust how you see me more than any distorted mirror this world holds up, and grant me the courage to cooperate with you in this journey of being freed from every broken label. Loving Father in heaven, for so many years I have lived inwardly like an orphan, always afraid of lack, afraid of loss, afraid of what tomorrow may bring. Many times I have said, I believe, you are my shepherd, yet deep inside I kept measuring you by the amount in my bank account, by my job, by the narrow environment around me. I have only dared to ask for enough to survive, just to get through the day. I have been afraid of the word abundance because I misunderstood it, tying it to greed and showing off. Lord, please forgive me for limiting you inside the cramped frame of my own calculations. Please set me free from this mindset of scarcity, from the haunting thought that I was born to lack. Open my eyes to see that you are the one who can open doors I never imagined, who can create streams of provision, could never have guessed. Teach me to live as a child in the Father's house, where there is enough and more than enough, so that I may know how to receive, to steward, and to share, instead of living shriveled up in fear. Help me be brave enough to let you touch my spending habits, my lifestyle, my way of managing what I have, so that when blessing comes it will not become a burden, but a clear stream flowing through my life to many others. Almighty God, I bow my head in gratitude because you did not let me drown under the old names I and others have put on me. I thank you that in the days when I condemned myself, you still patiently whispered in my heart, "You are my child, you belong to me." I know that without you, I would have spent my whole life as a shadow of my past, but you stepped in and changed the story, from victim to one who is rescued, from something discarded to one who is sent, from the one always ashamed to the one who dares to lift their face because they know they are loved. I know the journey of healing is still long, but I thank you that each time I return to you, you do not say, "Again," but you say, "I am still here." I thank you that my identity is no longer boxed in by circumstances or failures, but is bound to the one who does not change. May this grateful heart keep me from going back to the old labels and remind me always that the most precious name I bear is Child of my Father in heaven. Merciful Father, I thank you for walking with me through seasons of lack and seasons of plenty. When I trembled before the bills and the foggy future, you did not leave me in my fear, but used those very days to teach me how to lean on you. I thank you for all the times you provided, just enough in a wondrous way, for the unexpected opportunities, for the people you sent to support me at just the right moment. I also thank you for not giving me the things I demanded merely to satisfy my desires, but instead teaching me discipline, self-control, and how to distinguish between what is needed and what is excess. If there were only blessings without your training, I would surely have lost my way long ago. Please help me always remember that everything I have, from breath, health, the ability to work, to each meal, and the place I live, is a gift from your hand, not something I hold by my own strength. And may this gratitude turn me into a channel that is ready to share, not a reservoir that clings tightly to everything for myself. I offer this prayer in the holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Do not forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that together we can build a strong and vibrant community of faith.